Welcome to our new deep dive. Today's material is adapted directly from a clinician-written article on Mentalyc. We wanted to bring it to audio for all of you therapists who, prefer to catch up on these kinds of insights while you're on the move.
Yeah, and we're really excited about this author. The perspective comes from Gargi Singh, a psychologist, and her work is all about this idea of moving past the surface narratives to find, well, the real depth in therapy.
And since this article does come from that platform, if you're hearing the name Mentalyc for the first time, it's a clinical intelligence platform. It's designed to support therapists with documentation, but also with those in-session insights.
Let's set a scene here because I think every clinician listening is going to recognize this. You have a client, they're incredibly reliable, they show up every week on time and they talk about what happened. They give you the content, but you have this feeling deep down that they're reading from a safe, pre-approved script.
Yes.
They deliver the plot, But the actual emotional process that stays locked away.
Oh, that is such a universal experience. It's that moment you realize you've been listening for 45 minutes about, I don't know, traffic or a difficult coworker, all these mundane concerns, and you haven't even touched the real stuff that brought them to you in the first place. The challenge isn't just listening, it's how do you make that leap from just talking to doing transformative work? Okay, let's unpack this. The core idea we're diving into is really about distinguishing between the content a client brings and the deeper process that we have to get to for real change to happen.
Exactly.
And to do that, you have to see the difference between their story and what this article calls their cover story.
And that reframes what depth even means, right? It's not always about, intense emotional outbursts or high drama in the session. It's about creating a space intentionally where a client feels safe enough to start peeling back the layers, to explore their fundamental beliefs, their experiences, their patterns. We're shifting from what happened to how it feels.
So these cover stories, then, they're the superficial versions of a painful event. They have a function, but they're really hiding the deeper, often shame-based issues that need to come out for healing to happen.
Yes. It's like the client is showing you the edited movie trailer of their pain.
Not the full, unedited film.
Exactly. And it's so important to remember it's not deception. It's not even resistance in that old school sense. It's a natural protective reaction. They're using these stories to test the waters of therapy. They're watching us, trying to figure out if we, the therapist, can actually be trusted with the really vulnerable stuff.
And that puts the responsibility right back on us. Because if we respond to the cover story by, say, over-intellectualizing or trying to solve the problem they brought, we could accidentally just reinforce their avoidance. We have to be so careful about how our questions guide them inward instead of keeping them, stuck on the outside.
Yeah.
I always think of it like a client showing you their perfectly manicured garden. It's beautiful, it's safe, but the real work, that's in the tangled root system underneath. It's, cracking the foundation of the house.
That's a great analogy. And what's fascinating here is thinking about what those cover stories are actually protecting the client from. If you connect this avoidance to the bigger picture, you often find they're guarding against this tendency to repeat traumatic patterns.
Which is what we call repetition compulsion.
Exactly. And the source material points out that this compulsion often comes from a really deep sense of shame. Not guilt, which is I did something bad, but shame, which is I am bad.
That distinction is so critical for us as clinicians.
It is, because those feelings of worthlessness lead to these behaviors that they started out as defenses, but now they're just keeping the person stuck.
Right. And if we can spot that pattern, we can help interrupt it. The article breaks it down into 3 key mechanisms that drive this, which I find super helpful for just recognizing what's happening in the room.
Yeah, let's go through them. The first one is mastery attempts. This is where the client, maybe not even consciously, repeats parts of the trauma.
The setup, the feeling, the type of relationship.
Right. They do it in this sort of misguided attempt to finally change the outcome.
We see this all the time. Like the person who keeps dating emotionally unavailable partners, they're trying to finally get the unavailable person to choose them.
Yes, to master that childhood pain of abandonment, but they just end up re-traumatizing themselves over and over.
So what's the second one?
The second mechanism is rigid defenses. These are the safety behaviors they developed, but now the behaviors themselves are causing the problem to repeat. It's really subtle.
The classic example being the client who's terrified of abandonment, so they become extremely clingy, but that intensity suffocates the partner. And, well, it leads to the very abandonment they were trying so hard to prevent.
Exactly. And the last one is emotional dysregulation. This is when a current situation triggers those overwhelming feelings from past trauma. Their whole internal state just goes haywire.
And they're just scrambling to make sense of it,
Mhm.
often with, distorted thinking, just to explain the chaos they feel inside.
And that kind of disruption in the session, it requires so much focus from us to stay grounded. It's why this deeper process-oriented work is so demanding.
It's exhausting.
It really is. Tracking these patterns, the subtle shifts in the alliance, session after session, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
And the article is clear. Deepening that therapeutic alliance is the only way to unlock this kind of work.
That's so true. Moving from content to process is all about relational depth. It demands, real empathy, unconditional positive regard, our own authenticity. But it's so easy to miss the subtle signals when you're in it.
This is actually where something like Alliance Genie can come in to support your reflection, especially after a session where you feel like the cover story took over or the connection felt a little shaky.
Right.
It's designed to help you track and strengthen those connections. But outside the session, when you have time to breathe and think.
I think it's helpful to clarify what it's even looking at. It's not just big moments. It's analyzing patterns like how often the topic shifts or if there are sudden emotional lulls.
Or even changes in latency.
Yeah, the things we might feel but can't quite put our finger on. It captures what the article called alliance signals, and it gives you these supervision-like insights right there in your notes.
And critically, it helps you get some objectivity on the relationship dynamics. You can spot those little moments where a client might have disengaged right after a certain question, things you absolutely miss in the moment.
And it does all that without storing any recordings. It's
Right.
just about spotting patterns to help your own reflection.
Exactly. And using that insight helps us consciously build the safety needed for the real work. You need enough safety for them to explore, but also just enough challenge to promote growth.
That's a delicate balance.
It is.
Yeah.
Quick pause here. If tracking these subtle alliance patterns and trying to fit that kind of deep reflection into a packed schedule, if that sounds familiar, the platform in the article, Mentalyc, is really built to help with that.
Its Alliance Genie feature can support your clinical judgment by helping quantify those relational dynamics. It's all fully iPay and SOC2 compliant. You can check it out at Mentalyc.com.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the room. The big practical takeaway is mastering that shift from what the content to how the internal process. We have to gently but consistently redirect the client's focus away from the external story and towards their internal world.
And that takes intentional language. When a client is stuck in that cover story loop, we need tools to pull them inward. The article gives some great process-focused questions. So instead of asking more about the coworker, we ask, what's it like for you when these things happen?
Or how does telling this story make you feel right now in this moment? That brings them right into the present.
Or what I really like, what does this experience tell you about your needs and values?
Yeah.
That shifts them from feeling like a victim to, understanding their own framework.
And we can't forget the body. The somatic piece is huge.
Absolutely.
The body holds so much that words can't get to. Simply asking, how does your body feel when you consider this? Or where are you feeling that tension right now? That can be the key to getting underneath the cover story.
It's often the most direct path.
It really is. It allows you to get to those core repetitive issues the article talks about. Control, trust, over-responsibility, that deep fear of abandonment.
So what does this all mean? I guess embracing this kind of depth means we see the cover story for what it is, a shield. It's a shield built from pain and shame, and our job isn't to break the shield, but to create a space that's safe enough for the client to feel like they can lower it themselves on their own time.
That's a slow process. It's not linear, but the payoff in terms of real lasting change, it's just so significant.
It is.
And just to close, a final thought. Consider the power of metaphor and symbolism here. Often these deep patterns can't be explained in literal language. So if a client says their anxiety is a storm on the horizon, or they see themselves as a locked door, what are they really communicating? What unstated fears about the future or struggles with trust are they showing you outside of their normal narrative? Working with that symbolic language, that's often how you bypass the defenses of the cover story.
And if you want support tracking those subtle cross-session alliance patterns that help you notice that deeper communication, Alliance Genie can help you reflect with objective insights without ever storing recordings. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into going deeper with clients. We'll see you next time.